Welcome to this video on how to get the best out of your LinkedIn profile for 2022. Lots of changes have happened over the last 12 months or so, including the workflows. So some of this may be new to you, even those who are familiar with doing this. The key thing to consider with close to 800 million people on LinkedIn, your LinkedIn profile is now much more about you as a person, as an individual, as it is a business profile. We've seen a step change in terms of how social media is being used across the business world on LinkedIn in the last 2 years in a post-pandemic world. And so this hopefully will give you some hints and tips as to things to consider that you may want to change around your profile moving forwards. As ever, thanks for tuning in. Let's crack on. So let's get started. As you can see, this has been done from the desktop. I strongly suggest that you do this from the desktop because it's considerably easier than doing it from the mobile. However, the majority of what I will be showing, you can do through the mobile app. So to come to edit your profile, we click on your name here. This will then take you through to the edit page here. Anywhere that you see a pencil, either blue or gray, fundamentally is where you can change your profile. If you are missing profile sections that I'm referring to, is this button here, add profile section. I click on that, then you can see the different pieces that you want to add in accordingly. First and foremost, where we'll start is with the banner image. Depending on the organization that you work for, they may have their own brand guidelines and style guidelines around this from their own library for you to use. If not, I strongly suggest an image that is related to an industry that you focus on. Could be the town, city that you work in, could be something you're passionate about. The two useful websites that I use are unsplash.com or pixabay.com, royalty-free images. Good up-to-date corporate profile photo just represents who you are. Again, you maybe use the one you've already got from your website if you like it. Just try and keep some brand consistency around where you are met online. Click on your photo. This is where you can view, edit your profile photo. You've also got view or edit cover story. So this actually enables you to create a 30-second intro video in portrait form. So similar to Instagram Reels or TikTok or YouTube Shorts, if you're familiar with those formats, which then creates this halo around your profile. What then happens is that when somebody lands on your profile, the first 3 seconds of that video will play in mute and then encourage them to click on the video and learn more. So if I click on mine, view or edit cover story, you can get a sense of what you can achieve. If you are going to do a cover story, I do recommend you have subtitles like I'm using here, and you'll note that you have to do this on the mobile device. Not necessarily for everyone, but video is becoming ever more important. So those of you that maybe are more comfortable, it's a great way just to bring your profile to life and introduce yourself. Next, we come to the headline. That's this piece here. So if I click on the pencil, this enables me to edit additional names and so on. Pronouns, if you want to add your pronouns in here, you can do. The headline is then found here. Typically, most people have the job title. So that's my job title at PA Consulting. It's my hierarchical position, if you will. If I were to have that there, I become just another consultant on LinkedIn. So fundamentally, what we want to have here is something that's going to create intrigue, going to catch people's attention, and start to make you stand out from the crowd. I'm not necessarily suggesting that you go as far as I've gone. If you're not comfortable with this kind of introductory headline, but fundamentally the way that I look at this is if I were to pick up the phone to any of your clients, how would they describe to me what it is that you do for them? That's what we want to think about in the world of professional services. Lawyers, accountants, managing consultants, whoever. How would they describe to you, or to me, I should say, what it is you do for them? If there's a step too far, then at least have what it is that you do. So I could have here managing consultant, professional services, sales transformation, for example. So at least then people understand exactly what I do. The reason I want this is I want to try and create intrigue and encourage people to click through and learn more. Further down from here, this is then where you can add in all the different aspects of your education. You can add multiple educations if you've done law school or follow-up degrees or law conversions. You can have all your location details here, either where you are in terms of your home or where your office is based. You can then save through this, and then we can go further through here. If you want to edit your contact info, you'd click on this button here. So edit contact info. We click. This then brings you through to, you would put your corporate website, or you might put them through to the website specific to your area of the business. It could be your legal CV, for example, any other websites. So you have personal blogs, podcasts, etc. Add those in. Telephone number. I don't really bother with the address. If you've got your Twitter profile, you can add that in. I don't bother with my birthday, so you don't get random people on LinkedIn wishing you a birthday. The other thing you can do here is you can personalize your URL. So see, I've got linkedin.com/in/Alexander Lowe. If you haven't personalized your URL, you'll have this first name hyphen surname, and then a number of numbers after that. We'll come to the profile URL in a second around why that is important and how you can personalize that. So moving on, you'll then note that I have talks about and then a number of hashtags in terms of what it is that I talk about. That's because I've set my profile to creator mode and turned this on. It isn't necessarily for everybody. What this does is this then encourages people to follow you on LinkedIn rather than connect with you. So much like you could follow people on Twitter or Instagram, for example, they'll have a follow button here rather than a connect button. They can still connect with you. They have to push more and work a little bit harder. So if you click on creator mode and turn it on, what you'll see here is that you can add up to 5 different topics which you would talk about. So what you want to be aware of, you don't need to put the hashtag in front of that. So if I just turn metaverse off, for example, add topics, I just type in verse. So that's the one I want to. So I click on metaverse and you'll see it's added the hashtag there automatically. What this also then does is gives you access to LinkedIn Live potentially and access to newsletters. I'll do some separate videos on that. But the key thing is it might be of interest and useful is the fact that you can then talk about the areas, the subject matter expertise that you talk about. I said it encourages people to follow rather than connect with your profile. Moving down, we then come to the featured section. This is a great way to promote content. It could be content that you have shared yourself on LinkedIn. So you create a post on LinkedIn and then you add it to your profile, or you can just click the plus button. You can add a post, you can add an article, you can add a link. So that could be a link to the website, could be a link to an event, could be a link to a report, could be a link to a third-party piece of information, which is just relevant to your intended audience. You can add photos and all sorts of things. The features section is great because it's also clickable. So it encourages people to click through. So if you haven't got that switched on, I highly recommend that you do. And at the bare minimum, at least have a latest piece of thought leadership or a latest piece of research that your organization has created, which is relevant to what you do and relevant to your intended audience. You can see your activity section here. And if you want to start a post, you can click start post and that'll take you directly to where you want to go. And then you can start talking about things. Again, I'll do a separate video around posting. Here is the about section. So again, first things first, this is not to be written in the third person. We want this to be much more story-led, much more human. This is being recorded in January 2022. What we have seen over the last 2 years as we've moved through the pandemic, and fingers crossed we're coming out the other side of it, LinkedIn has become, yes, business, but kind of the blurring between business and home. So you want to start thinking about what is the story that you want to tell here. And there are many, many different ways that this can be played. So I'm building it around the theme of the Back to the Future, because that's what I want to focus on. Talking around a bit of sort of credentializing me in terms of my background within professional services, and then giving some insights into around what's happening and where people are, where it's all going. This could be dependent on what industry, and it could be your story. If you've been a lawyer your entire career, what that's meant, why you moved into it, if you switched roles from legal to legal tech, if you changed industries. Some people choose to add some more personal stuff if you're passionate about LGBTQ, Black Lives Matter, charities, if you sit on governance. This is the bit that kind of makes you you from my perspective. But first and foremost, it's not your CV and it's not written in the third person. Probably the most hardest part of this. Again, I suggest drafting something on Word, sharing it with your colleagues, sharing it with your own marketing BD function to get their feedback. One bit of a story. Editing is it's very simple. You just click on the edit pencil, and then you'll see you can edit your about here. So I recommend doing the description on Word or something, and then copying and pasting once you're happy with it. Then the experience section. This is the what you do. And again, this isn't necessarily your role. So this is about what you do internally. Think about when someone lands on your LinkedIn profile, there are 800 million people on LinkedIn. This is about having a one-to-one conversation with them and talking to that person at an individual level. So it's around what will you do? What will this person get out of it? If you do multiple kind of roles, so I've got kind of two aspects around what I do at PA, both through internally and for clients, but also through the Microsoft Alliance. Add those in, call them out. Could be for an industry level, could be for a practice level. We don't necessarily want a list of awards and accolades. Understand if you want to put those in, or maybe put those towards the bottom. The challenge with those, especially if they're date stamped, if you get to update your profile very quickly, they can become out of date. If you work on transactions or deals, maybe list some of the major transactions and deals that you've worked on in the last 12 months. If you can't talk about client work that you've done in the public domain, then you want to talk about it in the round. I've used emojis and emoticons just to see the difference. Don't feel you have to. You can bullet it. You can list it. For those that you have pitch CVs and pitch documents, maybe that's a good place to start. So at least that mirrors what you're talking about in your pitches. When then people come to review a profile online, you can then mirror that all together. Again, pretty straightforward. You just click on the pencil, and then from here you can then move through to your different areas. Then you would click on each kind of pencil that you're on. So I do my podcasting here. I'm an advisor to a few AI companies. So I've added those in. If I do mentoring work here, members of societies, well, as an independent consultant across here. Then in my previous life, again, you'll see all my roles have been filled out and tell that story. The other aspect to consider, if you're familiar with search engine optimization, is that your profile is searchable. So your about section, your job title, all these aspects are searchable. Also, we see here, while I'm here, edit public profile and URL. So we click on edit public profile and URL. This opens up another tab. This is how visible I am, or you are, outside of LinkedIn. So how visible you are in search engines and how visible you are when people are looking outside of LinkedIn. You are in control of all of this. I would encourage you to be fully visible, and I go full public. The more private you make yourself, especially if you haven't got LinkedIn Premium, the less that you get and the less searchable you are outside of LinkedIn, then that means you are less visible versus those that are. So you see here, you can control all of this. I have everything visible because I want to be as searchable as possible across the internet when people are looking for what I do and how I might be able to help them. Here is where you'd edit your URL. So you click on this pencil here. You'll have a first name. You'll have a hyphen here in terms of hyphen there. So take out the hyphen, take out the numbers at the end. If you can get first name hyphen, if you can get first name hyphen surname, great. If you can't take out the hyphen, doesn't matter. Some people invert it. Some people put the area that they're in. So you could put litigation, you could put retail, you could put whatever, industry perspective. But the idea is you want to personalize the URL because this is unique to me. It'll be unique to you. No one else on LinkedIn can have this URL because it's mine. So think of it as like a unique website for you. And then you click save. We come back to then here. I'll then come back to experience. You can see the workflow is slightly different for those of you that haven't updated for a while. Education, again, I'd encourage you to add in all your relevant education establishments that you've been to. This helps LinkedIn suggest other people to connect with. It can also create that commonality for you if you're connecting with them. Any licenses, certifications, accreditations, anything that you've got, just click the plus button. You can add those in. Absolutely worth bringing in because it can just enriches your profile and brings this all to life. Skills are important because, again, skills are searchable. Don't worry so much about the endorsement. That's the number after the skill. But absolutely, you want to be adding as many skills in as you can, not only from an advisory perspective, but from an industry perspective, from a management perspective. The skills are searchable. So think about, you can have up to 50 skills on your profile. Think about which skills you'd want to have in terms of what it is that you do and what you want to be known for. Click the plus sign, or you can just click on the varying ones across here and add those different skills through. And the final piece, again, you need to potentially check internally around what you can and can't do around this. But recommendations, think of recommendations as TripAdvisor rating, if you will, or the Amazon rating and so on. And this is a great way to encourage people to be able to see when you've been recommended. So when people look at your profile, they can then get, oh, okay, I don't know Alex, but in this case, I can see all these clients and these firms that he's worked for within my industry. He must know what he's talking about. Otherwise, these people wouldn't have recommended in terms of what you can do. And then you can toggle these between off and on. So with that around, you can then make the ones that you want visible, and so on and so on and so forth. So I'm going to let's put Clive's one on there. You have to be connected to somebody in order for the recommendation, in order for them to be given the recommendation. So you need to have that first degree connection, and then you would ask them for a recommendation. So any courses that you've done, sales training, marketing training, any legal, any technical courses, all that same kind of stuff. Add these all in here. It starts to enrich the profile. Languages, organizations that you've worked for outside of your day job, as it were. You can add these in and have them all that. Interests based on the people that the people or companies that you follow. Then you can add in your causes in terms of what you're interested in. So you'll see there's a lot there, but the key things to consider are banner image, profile photo. Consider the video if you want to bring that in the cover story. Your headline, ideally explaining, kind of making you stand out from the crowd. Bare minimum, job title, practice group, industry focus, and so on. So at least you'll understand exactly what you do when you're looking at list form. The feature section to promote content. Then in terms of your about section, telling your story. The experience section, this is around the what I do and how I can help you. Education, license certifications, skills, recommendations, courses, and so on. Once that's done, I recommend that you probably check in every 3 months, 6 months to make sure you've got the latest up-to-date information, deals, relevant topics of conversation that are going to be appropriate for your audience. The way to think about your LinkedIn profile today, this is no longer a CV, it's no longer a place to find a job, whilst LinkedIn is a brilliant place to find a job. It's around positioning yourself as a subject matter expert, and it's talking to your next opportunity, your next client, your next instruction, whatever that might. Hope you found this useful. Let me know in the comments, and of course, feel free to find me on LinkedIn and send me a connection request or a DM if you've got any further questions.